Hey there, Aisha Formansky with Beaducation.com, and today I'm going to show you how to take a blank, shape it, and solder it to a ring band. This super simple project can be altered in lots of different ways. You can change the ring blank, or you can change the blank that you put on top. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm all set up to solder this blank onto this ring, and I wanted to show you the tools that we're going to use in this project. I have a third hand, a quench cup with a brush for the flux, nylon ring bending plier, solder pliers, my trusty soldering tweezers, solder pick, charcoal block, easy solder in wire form, and then all of these goodies are on a non-combustible work surface, and I'm wearing my safety glasses. And you can't see it here, but I'm using a butane torch. I'm going to use this square blank for the project, and it says "You are loved," and this ring that says "Yes, you are." I want to show you something. When I lay this square on the ring, see how there's just a small portion of the square resting on the ring? Well, I could solder this in place just like this, but then every time you would put your finger or your hand into your pocket, your ring would catch and it would probably get distorted and eventually wrecked. So what we want to do is we want to put a curve in the square that mimics the same shape as the ring so that we can solder it down securely. I'm going to use the nylon ring bending pliers to do that. So take your little pliers, and I call this is in the frowning position. You're going to put the blank sunny side up in the frowning position. Let me rotate this plier. It's going to be awkward for me, but you'll be able to see it better. Just like that. Oops, sorry, there. See that? And then I'm going to squeeze. So now I have kind of my initial curve. I'm going to switch my hands so it's a little bit more comfortable for me. Now I'm going to come back in and just starting at the bottom, give it a little squeeze. Go to the middle, squeeze, top, squeeze. We just want to get a consistent shape throughout the whole square. I like doing baby steps instead of one big movement. So let's see how this is coming. Oh, that's a nice curve, right? Consistent. Bring our ring in and check it. There we go. Much better. So let me get set up to solder. Let's cut our solder pallions for our project. I'm going to use the solder cutting pliers, which are pretty handy dandy. Open the jaws. Thread the end of the solder wire into the hole on the side until it stops, and then squeeze. Whoops. We need 2 pallions for this project. One did fall down, but I'll just grab it here. See how small they are? A little bit of solder goes really quite a long ways. You'll be quite surprised. So there they are. Next, I'm going to flux the areas where I'm going to solder. So that's the back of the square and the bottom of the ring. Now, setting up the ring and the square may take a few minutes. I want you to make sure that you do your due diligence to make sure that they're right. The ring is clamped in the third hand, and you'll notice that if you just start to push the third hand down, see how it springs up? And actually the flux has made them attached to one another, but they're not actually resting on each other. And no matter how many times you try to push down, it keeps popping up. So what I like to do is come over, bring the ring beyond the boundary of the charcoal block, and just press it down just a hair lower than the charcoal block so that it's there, and then bring it back over and place it on the square blank. This will ensure that they're touching. Now I'm gonna do one thing that you can't see from where you are, which is I'm gonna take a bird's eye view and make sure that everything is square. And actually it looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna take my pallion, my first one here, and place it where the ring and the square meet, on the side closest to me and on the far side. You'll see that I use my solder pick to position the solder. That looks pretty good. I've decided to make a little adjustment so that you can see better. See how the tweezers are kind of in the way? So with my hand, I'm gonna hold the ring in place, and I'm going to adjust the tweezers. And then my solder moved a little bit, so I'm just gonna put it back in place. Just like that. The third hand is to hold the piece in place, but we don't want it to get in the way. So you wouldn't want the tweezers to come all the way across, because then it becomes like a heat sink, and it will absorb most of the heat from the torch, and we really want your ring to absorb most of the heat so that the solder will flow. Let's strike up the torch. I have my torch in my non-dominant hand and my solder pick in my dominant hand. And the reason that is that if the solder moves, I want to be able to boss it back into place. With my flame, and the fluffy, friendly part of the flame, I'm going to slowly start to circle the whole ring. Our natural response is just to heat exactly where we want the solder to go, but I need the whole piece to warm up. So the flux is starting to fluff up. Next it will drop down, and it will get like little black and brown specks. After the little specks, it will get shiny and glossy and clear. When it's shiny and glossy and clear, we know that it's go time and that our metal has come up to temperature and that our solder is about to flow. When it is clear and shiny, I'm going to focus more of my heat at the base of the piece where I want the solder to flow. So let's do that now. Feather. If the solder doesn't go right away, go for another pass. Go around and feather. There they go. Turn off your torch. I wait 5 or 10 seconds to quench, because if you put the piece in hot, you thermal shock the metal, and there's no reason to do that. Metal could become a little bit more brittle. At this point, I'd love to say, here's our beautiful ring, but the piece is soldered together. And we have a bunch of copper oxides on the piece that we will remove in the pickle pot. All right, we're gonna have a truth moment here. It's a little crooked. Can you see how the square is a little crooked on the band? Now that had to do with setting up in the third hand, and when I made that second adjustment, I must not have done the best job I could when I checked it from the bird's eye view. So I'm gonna show you how to fix this, because that's a good thing for y'all to know. I'm gonna pop it in the pickle pot and then fix it. All right, let's fix up this ring. I pickled it, so all the copper oxides have been removed. We want to have a nice clean surface to reflow the solder. So I'm going to put flux where I want the solder to flow. And it really is nice that you can just reflow the solder and make these adjustments for moments like this. Flux is applied. I'm going to strike up the torch. As you have probably noticed, I've removed the third hand. I'm just going to wing this. I'm going to flow the solder, and with my solder pick, I'm just going to tap this side. If I tap it and it doesn't go, I'm going to tap this one down instead. It's one of the moments where you're just going to have to wait and see how it behaves. So let's strike up the torch and get that solder flowing. Moving the torch in circles, just as we did before. Keeping our eye on that flux. See how it all puffed up like that? And there it goes, dropping down. When that flux starts to get really glossy and shiny, I know that the solder is about to flow. And when it does, I'm going to make my adjustment. There we go. See how I rotated it? You are the boss. There we go. You can keep the heat on the ring for quite a bit of time as long as you're far away from that aqua cone and using the fluffy part of the flame. There we go. Straightened up. Wait 5-10 seconds and then quench. Here's the ring, fresh out of the pickle. When you take your silver out of the pickle, it'll have this white look to it, and that's because during soldering the silver came to the surface. But I'm just assessing it. This looks pretty good. It's pretty cute. I might want to keep this one for myself.
No, I'm keeping it.
That's Lisa behind the camera there. All right, so let's buff this up a little bit. I'm going to use my trusty Pro Polish pad, which if you're not familiar with, I also call them magic pads because they are a microabrasive pad that's impregnated with polishing compound. So when you rub your jewelry with it, it not only polishes, it buffs. Like that. And you know what? I was going to patina this, but it looks pretty sharp, shiny, so I think I'm just gonna leave it. So work all the way around your piece. Get the inside too. This is so shiny, it's picking up my fingerprints. All right, I think this is good. Here we are with the finished little ring. It says, "You are loved." And then on the band, it says, "Yes, you are." I hope you have fun making this project, and remember that you can mix up the blanks that you use on the top to get a totally different look.